the next one is lo sachmod, which is the prohibition. It, in the secular world is translated as thou shalt not covet. Otherwise called thou shalt not desire. Now, the Torah says you shouldn't desire your fellow's house, his animals, his wife, anything that belongs to somebody else. So, first of all, let's correct a misconception. The idea, the verse says, don't covet your neighbor's wife. Obviously, the Torah is not addressing only the morality aspect of it. It's not. It seems that he doesn't desire her because she's a woman, because otherwise the Torah wouldn't compare her to your neighbor's animal. He puts them in the same sentence. Don't desire his animal, don't desire his wife. So if he does desire him for the same reason, then he's got some serious problems. So it's obviously not that he's desiring her because of the sexual aspect of it. The underlying cause of desiring something that belongs to somebody else is simply that. It belongs to somebody else. When it belongs to somebody else, there's a natural instinct that we want what somebody else has. And my father once bought my older brother and I Hershey bars. They both weighed the same amount, whatever it was, 400 grams, whatever it was, except one of them was flat, long and flat. The other one was narrow and thick. And he said to me, which one do you want? Now, that was torture, because I knew that no matter which one I choose, as soon as my brother starts eating his, that's the one I'm going to have wanted, right? And they're both, there was a disadvantage. I think I took the long, flat one, right? But there's always like, why? It's the exact same thing. No, it's not, but he's got it. And there's a human nature is to desire what other people have, simply because other people have them. Not only that, there's a pasuk that says, "Ma'im geduvim im taku." The stolen water is sweet. Why is the stolen water sweet? Stolen water is sweet because it's not yours. And when you steal it, then it tastes good. Why is it that anytime when you were in high school, you're eating corn chips in class, there was nothing in the world that tastes as good, right? When you're eating and you're not supposed to be eating, you're eating corn chips, the technique, you sneak one and you put it in your mouth, you just kind of, and then you stop because as soon as the teacher starts turning, and there's nothing that tastes as delectable. You can't wait to get out into the hall and finish the entire bag. And when you do, it doesn't taste as good. It just doesn't taste good. You know why? Ma'im geduvim im taku. Because the stolen waters are sweet. Once it's prohibited, it tastes better. That is human. They say that is human nature when it comes to somebody else's wife as well. It could be a girl you dated, and you wouldn't marry her if she was the last girl in the world. Somebody else marries her, and you think to yourself, "My goodness, I didn't realize how good-looking she is." Sure, yes, you did, but now you didn't realize after she's married to somebody else. That's why when something becomes permissible, psychologically, it doesn't tempt you as much. Somebody once said they found a cure for romance. They found a few food that cures romance. It's called wedding cake. Because as soon as you're married, the romance goes, right? Up until that point, something else takes over. It's a little bit more meaningful. But that Hollywood idea of Hollywood romance and looking into each other's eyes for the rest of your life, that goes away. Because as soon as something becomes permissible, that takes the lure out of it. It takes a lot of the intrigue out of it. Erev Yom Kippur, you eat, right? 10 minutes before Yom Kippur, where are you? You're usually by a fountain of some sort drinking. Isn't that true? And everybody has their own secret good luck formula that's guaranteed that you won't be thirsty. Some families, 3 cups of water, 7 cups of water, 613 cups of water, something that's going to get you through Yom Kippur. Then Yom Kippur starts, 5 minutes into Yom Kippur, could be a dry one this year, right? Every year is a dry one. You ever notice that? And then Yom Kippur morning you wake up. You could be a person who skips breakfast every day of the year. Yom Kippur morning you wake up, you're ready to call Hatzalah. I'm not going to make it to 9 o'clock. Why is that? Because it's prohibited. Then towards the end of Yom Kippur, with about 10 minutes left, all day you've been thinking about where you're going to break your fast on. 10 minutes towards the end of Yom Kippur, you're already starting to get upbeat. And it's like, in Yom Kippur, you hear that final shofar, you think to yourself, I could probably fast tomorrow if I really wanted to. None of us do, and none of us fast tomorrow. We all go out and take 6 wedges of a slice of pizza, wedge them together, and jam them in. Because it's all ma'im geduvim im taku, it's psychological. The minute something's off limits to you, there's even an expression in the Gemara, the Gemara uses a counter expression. Somebody who has pas besalo, when you have bread in your basket, you're not hungry. When you have bread in your basket, you're not hungry. Because You got bread in your basket already, so there's nothing to be hungry. You know that it's available whenever you want it. That applies to many different areas of life. Somebody who's got a brand new car doesn't need to drive it because he knows he could drive it anytime. Somebody who doesn't own that car wants the car and wants to drive it. Once you have something available, so you lose the desire. So the Torah says over here, you're not allowed to desire what belongs to somebody else. Now, the obvious question is what? What's the obvious question? Maybe it's not so obvious. How can the Torah tell me not to desire something? I mean, I desire. What do you want from me? The guy's got a nice car. Obviously, I desire it. The guy's got a nice house. Obviously, I desire it. It's human nature to desire things. Even if I could get away from it, not because you have it. It's a nice car. You know, I'm driving a 14-year-old Chevy, and you're driving a brand new Lamborghini. It looks good. It looks like a good car. The answer is the Torah is telling you like this. First of all, according to some of the commentaries, you have not transgressed. Some of the commentaries say you do not transgress this prohibition by simply desiring it. It's not nice to desire it, but that's not a transgression. According to some, according to most, that's not a transgression. The transgression is if you take action to force the person to sell it to you. That means I'm not stealing it from you. I just nudge the daylights out of you until you sell it to me or give it to me. Oh, come on, give me a piece. Come on, that sort of thing. Then you are transgressing the prohibition of not desiring what belongs to somebody else. And not, as a matter of fact, you're not even allowed to ask somebody for something more than once. I would come over to you. What's your name?
Aaron.
Aaron. I go over to Aaron and I say, Aaron, I like to buy your shirt. How much is your shirt? Aaron says, I'll give you $10 for your shirt. And so I'm not selling it. I'm not allowed to say, oh, come on, Aaron, I'll give you $10. I'm not allowed to say that. I said it once. He said, no, that's it. Now I'm pressuring him. That pressure means I'm transgressing this. I could make a different offer. I could say, what about $12? Aaron's Jewish. He says, no. 15. No. 20. No. Trying to move it up a little bit. If Aaron says to me, I am not selling it under any circumstances for any price, then I'm not allowed to make an order. Then I'm not allowed to make an offer. If he'd say to me no, on any given price, well, it could be for a higher price. I'm sure Aaron's got a price for sure. So on any given price, we'll find a price. But if somebody says to you, no, you can knock on the door, I'd like to buy your house. The house is not for sale. I'll give you $20,000 right now, it's still not for sale. Okay, everybody's got a limit. Then to ask a second time, a lot of people don't know this. To pressure a person and ask a second time is prohibited. You're not allowed to ask a second time. You cannot pressure somebody. Otherwise, you are transgressing this.
What about business?
Business also, if in business, if a guy says, I'm not selling, you can't pressure him at that point to sell. I'm talking about business. You can't pressure him at that point to sell. You could up the offer. But you cannot pressure him at that point to sell. I don't want to sell for that price. Don't pressure me. In most stores in Israel, it says a lot of stores in Israel says no bargaining. When you come in, don't bargain, which just means, okay, let's bargain. But in many stores it says no bargaining. Now you can still bargain. That's part of life is bargaining. But you can only bargain once. You can only, can I get 20% off? No. You can't, oh, come on. You're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to do that. You could make a different offer. But most people don't realize that. What you are allowed to do is start turning around and walking out the store. That you could do. If the guy still wants it, then he'll call you back and say, all right, let's talk. That, yes, but you can't pressure again once the guy has said no. That's the halacha. Now, others say just the very desire is a prohibition. You're not supposed to desire what belongs to somebody else. Now, let's try to understand this because it's a very interesting insight into human nature. Number one, how could the Torah possibly tell me don't desire somebody else's wife? Don't desire his car. Don't desire his property. How can the Torah tell me not to desire it? The answer is like this. Have you ever seen, everybody imagines being a bird at some point or other. You wonder what it's like to fly. I wonder what it would be like to fly. I told you I was walking down the walkway today, and I saw the big tree over towards between here and the office, and don't ask me why, but I started wondering what it would be like to be a tree. It was just one of those moments. And I was just wondering what the tree is up to.
Anything's better than being a Chicago fan.
That is, in certain ways, that is true. And there's much less pain being a tree. I'm sure you've had a daydream at some point or what it would be like to be a bird. Now, I wish I was a bird. Did you ever wake up in the morning upset that you don't have sprouted wings and you can't fly? Did you ever go outside and try doing like this and you're really upset that you didn't get lifted? No, you didn't. You'd think, hey, it'd be pretty neat to avoid traffic by flying, but it didn't really bother you. You know why it didn't bother you? It's not my example, whether it's the Eben Ezra's example. Because you know that wings are completely off limit. It would be nice to be a bird, but I'm not jealous of the bird. The bird has wings. I don't have wings. I'm a human being. A pauper, if your best friend is marrying your ex-girlfriend who you still like, You'd be jealous, right? Wow, especially if her dad's got a lot of money. Then you'd be upset. Then you'd be jealous. When Prince Charles married what's her name with the steering wheel, nobody what's the one who died? Right? No, whatever anybody thought of her, nobody was truly jealous. The commoner isn't jealous of the princess. That's what the Ibn Ezra said. Why not? Because it's completely off limits. I haven't got a chance. It has nothing to do with me. It's one of those Hollywood romances. It has nothing to do with me. When it's something nearby, then you're jealous. When it's something out of your realm, it's out of my league, it has nothing to do with me, I'm not jealous because it has nothing to do with me. So the Ibn Ezra is saying, if we learn and understand that what HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what God decrees for each individual, what he gives you has absolutely nothing to do with me. It is as far out of my reach as the princess is to the pauper. It's as far as out of my reach as the wings of a bird are to a human being. Then I have nothing to be jealous of. Because I understand that everybody, the Gemara says, a person cannot touch what's meant for somebody else, afilu kimolei nima. Molei nima, you cannot even by a hair's breadth get a hair's breadth worth of what belongs to somebody else. No matter how hard you try and how hard you plot and whatever you try to do, you are not going to get what's meant. Even if you steal money from him one way, you're going to lose that money anyway, and it'll be made up to him. There is nothing that you're able to take that belongs to. If somebody else is meant to get the honor, if somebody else is meant to get the prestige, if somebody else is meant to get the promotion, there is nothing you could possibly do to take away from somebody else. In the same way, he can't take away from you. So you may as well put yourself off limits. Number one, I realize that it has nothing to do with me. If I see it as off limits, as a prince sees, as a pauper sees the princess, it has nothing to do with me. Then there's nothing, you're not going to be jealous of it. That's number one. If you're meant to have a car, you're going to have a car regardless of whether he has a car. There are two types of envy, by the way. There's one envy where I don't mind if you have it, I just want one also. There's another type of envy where if I can't have it, you can't have it either. And if I can't have it, I want to make sure you don't have one either. That's already, you're descending into what we would call evil. Then you're just evil. I can't have it, so I'm going to try to stop you from having it too. And what do you gain by him not having it? You still don't have it. So if you have it, and I would like one also, okay, that's already standard. We should try to overcome that. But to try to make another person lose it simply because you can't have it, that doesn't make any sense. If I can't have it, nobody could have it. That doesn't make any sense at all. That's just a sign of evil. Now, number two, there's another way to control this. You know, my wife and I, we were married about 3 weeks in America. We got married in America. We're on our way to Israel. So we're on a plane flying to Israel. We had we're coming here for about a year. And at a certain point, both of us were afraid of flying at the point. And we're both nervous about flying. And at a certain point, we're just flying. This was my wife. We just looked at each other. The plane went into a dive. It wasn't straight down, but you could tell that the plane was just diving downwards. And, we're both looking at each other like, what's that? Now, the seats on the plane started rattling, and there were these Swedish teenagers on the plane who started going, whee! And started making noise. So the whole thing gave an impression of imminent doom. And the plane was kind of in a dive. And my wife and I just looked at each other. We said, Shema. We didn't know what was going on. And the whole thing took anywhere between maybe 5 to 10 seconds, probably closer to 5 seconds. It was a lifetime. It was an eternity. All of a sudden, the plane straightens out, and she's crying, and I'm trying to be brave, shaking like a leaf. And then about 10 minutes later, the pilot comes on, and he says, ladies and gentlemen, in that lazy pilot voice, ladies and gentlemen, we're sorry about that little inconvenience back there. The automatic pilot malfunctioned, so we just had to take it over manually. It should be okay. We're flying at 37,000 feet. Have a nice flight, thank you. And he's like, yeah. All right. So she's shaking, and every time after that, it was horrible because every time the plane just went like that, we were both looking at each other. Well, what now? So now, just imagine after that, we're both absolutely rattled to the beat. Just then, the stewardess comes by. Would you like your meal, sir? Right? The last thing that I want to do at that point is eat. I got absolutely no appetite because fear curbs your appetite. Fear curbs your appetite. If a person has an appetite for something that is off limits to him, all you got to do is picture the fires of Gehenna underneath you. Right? Realize there will be an eternal punishment for this, which is worse than any form of embarrassment you've ever suffered in your life. And that fear is enough. If nothing else works, there's always fear. That fear is enough to get you on the straight and narrow. And that's what Rabbi Chaim Brisker says. You won't be jealous of something, you won't desire something, you certainly won't take action to get something if you realize that you should really be afraid, because what you're doing is you are rebelling against the way God wants to run his world. And there will be an eternal punishment for it. So if nothing else works, then the fear is able to curb the desire. So there are two ideas here. Idea number one is to realize that I'm not meant to have it and try to be philosophical about it. Idea number two is to picture your car breaking down in Harlem with nobody else around you to help you, right? That would be fair. I heard a story about that. A guy was driving through Harlem in a sports car, and he was yelling all sorts of racial epithets out the window, and he stopped at a red light, and after the red light, the red light turned green, his car died. His car died. And then he was surrounded by a few of the locals. They helped him out of his car, and they took baseball bats and they trashed the car. And then they just turned to him and they said, "Okay, good luck getting out of here," and they walked away. Now he had to walk home. I don't know exactly how the story ended, but at the end of the day, that's fear. That's fair. A person understands, I got to be really careful here. So that's what Rabbi Chaim Brisker says. Picturing the fires of Gehenna, I don't want to sound like one of these Southern Baptist men. You're gonna burn, brothers. Throw me your money, empty your pocket. We're not talking about. But you have to understand there is accountability. But if that doesn't work for us, which it doesn't usually, then a person has to go approach it more with the bitachon, from a bitachon point of view. Bitachon means we trust that HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows what he's doing. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is running his world precisely to the nth degree. I know that what I'm supposed to get, I will get, and what I'm not supposed to get, it obviously isn't good for me. If a person internalizes the bitachon, then a person has nothing to be jealous of other people for. Obviously, it's the most, I'd say it's probably of all the traits that we suffer from. It says, Hakina, Taiva, Covet. The Pirkei Avos says, envy, physical desire, and honor remove a person from the world. Hakina, Taiva, Kavod, Motzinas Ha'adam min ha'olam. They remove a person from this world. Those three things. The first one on the list is envy. The first one is envy. Now there are two different meanings. There are two different meanings to that Mishnah. Meaning number one is just on a physical level. Three meanings. On a physical level, Hakina, Taiva, Kavod, Motzinas Ha'adam min ha'olam means that if you're envious of somebody, so you are going to do things that may very well terminate your life, like getting involved with his wife, in which case his husband comes after you with a shotgun, or if somebody's got a position that you would like to get, so you will overwork yourself to the point that you get ulcers and physical illnesses, and it could easily terminate your life. Taiva, physical desire, obviously, in overindulgence in various physical desires could cut a person's life short. And covet means the pursuit of honor. The pursuit of honor, somebody pursues honor also. He may work himself too hard, and he may create enemies along the way, and he may get people upset, and that could take him out of this world. The second meaning is it takes you out of the world to come, because if you're involved in envy, desire, and the pursuit of honor, so then you're probably going to be doing a lot of averas, and it's going to cost you your world to come, and you won't be involved with what you should be involved in here. But hakina ve'atayva kavod means envy, honor, lust, and honor takes a person out of this world. So somebody once said, it takes a person, the idea is it takes you out of the world of reality. That means anytime you're caught in one of these three areas, if you're caught up with it, you've lost total perspective and it's out of proportion. When you're envious of somebody else, whoever you're jealous of, you're looking, first of all, at one small part of his life. You're jealous, let's say, of this guy's position. Do you know what his family life is like? Do you know how he was raised? Are you jealous of his older brother beating him up? Are you jealous of the fact that he was raised poor and you weren't? There are a lot of things that go out. We always isolate one thing about another person. Wow, I wish I had that. Yeah, do you want the overall picture? Do you want the overall picture? If you do the overall picture, you wouldn't be so jealous. Wow, he's doing so well now. Yeah, if you had to go through what he went through to get there, you would never want any of it, not the beginning and not the end of it. Number two, when we look at what somebody else has, we project what kind of pleasure he must be getting from it. And so if a person looks at somebody else's position, like, wow, he's got a position, he got the promotion, he must be so happy and he's just bursting with glee. That's only because you're taken out of the world of reality. Talk to this guy. After 2 days in the position, he's already back in the routine. It's not what it's cracked up to be. And you find that with everything in the world, a physical desire, most people, when they indulge in a physical desire afterwards, say, well, it was okay. It was good, it was great, It's not what it was cracked up to be in the imagination, that's for sure. Imagination always cracks things up to be much bigger and better than they really are. Then when a person actually indulges, all right. Imagine a guy who's never had a trafe pepperoni pizza. From guys never had a trafe pepperoni pizza in his life, and he's finally, one day he succumbs. He walks past a Pizza Hut. He says, I got to do this, and he goes, and finally, please forgive me, Hashem. And he goes in and he indulges. And he's like, it's okay. It's okay. I've had the kosher stuff with the imitation pepperoni. This is much better. It's a letdown. It's a disappointment because your imagination was cracked up to far more than it took you out of the world of reality. Many things are like that. Most things in life are like that. And the last one is the pursuit of honor. A person thinks that when he gets the honor, then he's going to, once he gets the honor is gone. Now, all he's got left is a craving for more honor. I just read a write-up about kids who are child stars. They're child performers in the Jewish world, which like these little kids who sing for these groups, and then they hit 13, 14, their voice changes and they're finished. And they talk to these kids 35, 40 years, 30 years down the line. How did that affect you? And they were very candid, very honest. They said, listen, it was a craving, and I was never able to regain that craving. I was never able to regain it. We had a kid here at Or Sameach once who was a child actor. He was actually a child actor. And what's that? What was a craving? Craving for be on the stage, be performing again. They were doing that at 12 and 13 years old, and all of a sudden they lost that, and they never got over that. They were never able to fill that. Say, but you thought that would be it. To the contrary, that could sometimes be your downfall. We had a guy here who was a child actor, and he simply never got out of it. He didn't do well in school. He's always had that desire to be an actor, and he didn't make it once he grew older. And he struck me. My impression of it was he's the kid who never grew up. That's how he behaved in his marriage, and that's how he behaved in any respect. He was totally irresponsible. A very nice guy, very sweet guy, but totally irresponsible because he never learned that you got to take responsibility. He didn't want to work for a living. He didn't want to work for a living, like many of us. What we have to. So like Woody Allen said, those who can't do, teach. He said, those who can't teach phys ed. I was a phys ed major in college. I was a phys ed major.
Kinesiology major, I take offense to that.
You're a what major?
I was a kinesiology. I have a bachelor's in kinesiology and movement sciences, and most of you either go to physical therapy, you become a gym teacher, or you go to special education, gym teaching.
Right.
I take very offense to that. Because
okay.
It's very hard work.
Yeah, that's touching. We'll write a letter to Woody Allen together. The what do you call it? I'm proud of it. I told you a story. This lady is sitting on the plane, and she sees the lady next to her. She's got this beautiful diamond. She's just ogling this diamond. She's this other lady. She said, "Wow, that's a nice diamond." She said, "Yes, it is a nice diamond." She says, "That's a really nice diamond." She says, "Yes, it's the famous Plotnik diamond." She goes, "Oh, really?" She says, "Yes, but it comes with a curse." He goes, "Really?" She says, "Yes, Mr. Plotnik." So sometimes in life, you're looking, oh wow, he's the guy who's got it all. That's what you think. Yeah, the guy's got it all, and it's the guy's got it all. Until you're behind closed doors, till you find out what else is going on in his life. Then you're not. And there are plenty of people you're jealous till one day there's a big a downfall. Either the guy, I've been jealous of this guy all along. Then one day the guy falls deathly ill. Did you want the whole package? You really want that package? Did you want everything he had till he was 35 and then die? Is that what you really wanted? It's all another thing. Therefore, don't be so jealous. Realize that it takes you out of the world of reality. He's not enjoying it that much. It's not what it's cracked up to be, and nothing in life is. That's the idea. Okay. Any questions on that? Okay. The next one is the next bit. So now we actually spoke about this, about the idea of not making protruding images. That you're not allowed to make images. Remember we spoke about that with idols. You're not allowed to make protruding images of a human being, and you're not allowed to make images of the sun, the moon, and the stars. And there is a Kabbalistic source that says all of these images, we spoke about this once, all images actually have some sort of spirit, like a ruach ra, that rests on these images. Besides the prohibition itself, there's a ruach ra. Like when you wake up in the morning, you have to wash nagovasser because of the ruach ra that's on the fingers. Now that ruach ra, I don't know if the ruach ra that rests on the fingers when you go to sleep is because when a person goes to sleep, his neshama leaves him, and he is taken by his body is then taken by what's called a ruach ra. When he wakes up in the morning, his neshama returns, and the ruach ra leaves him, but it doesn't leave his fingertips. And then the only way to get that ruach ra off the fingertips is by washing 3 times, alternating on each hand. So now many people, people sometimes ask, well, why do you have to do 3 times on each hand? I mean, why does it work 3 times? Why not twice on each hand? Why not under a sink? So my response to that is, do you believe there's a ruach ra there? I mean, how do you know that you accepted it when I told you that there's a ruach ra? Right? So if you're bothered, you should be bothered by how do we know there's a ruach ra there, not how do we get rid of the ruach. If you accept when I tell you there's a ruach ra, so you can accept the formula for how to get ruach ra, you mean that's the only thing that's bothering you is why 3 times and not 4 times, then you're a great man of faith. The ruach ra I accept, but how do I know how to get rid? Listen, buddy, you got other issues over here before you get to the ruach ra. It's like the guy who walks into the cockpit and he says, what does that button do? The pilot says, oh, you mean all the other buttons you got worked out already? That's the only one. That's the only one you don't know. That's the only one you don't know. That's your only problem is the big green button over there. Everything else you got worked out. So that's the idea of the ruach ra.